All right. The part of this is just to see if anybody is going to be showing up tonight, and so I'm just going to give it a few more minutes, and just moving into this. So I'll bring this over to my live stream and just say, okay, well, welcome to my live stream. Although, we're just kind of getting started. I'm seeing who's arriving, and sort of at this point, with it being the hours that it is, I'm always curious as to who's going to be showing up. Also, I'm hoping the sound works. The last couple times I've had this, the first few times that I've tried this, I come out sounding a little bit higher pitched than I normally do, and I've changed some of the settings. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I'm going to try it, because otherwise I sound more in the range of a teenage boy than I do in terms of my voice in front of this. But when you come into chat, why don't you can say hello if that's the case. If not, some of you, of course, are observing, are simply observing anonymously, but still welcome anyway. And welcome to JC's Riptrack, and this is just a live stream, partly because I was this news announcement that the Down and Dirty Weathering Contest, the second version of it, is happening, and I've been asked to be a judge as part of it, because I was I was the grand prize winner last year, and so I've been understandably disqualified from it, but we wanted to make sure that we get a chance to kind of talk about it. If there's any kind of tips in terms of my experience from entering the contest last time. The rules have changed, so we only have this time, like last time we had to do 4 videos, and that included an introductory video, and then because it was 2 cars, there was 1 video for each car, and then the final video was here's how it turned out and here's how it looks. So that's kind of how that panned out. So we have as far as the weathering contest is concerned, the part of tonight is to do a little bit of questions and answers in terms of how how that kind of panned out. Plus, I actually came across a couple of resources that you might find useful. So I've drawn up some of those slides, and that I can at least talk about something, including something I actually picked up today that I thought, hey, it's actually quite timely. So I'm going to be working with that. So far we have just two of you in, but in the meantime, I'm just gonna, if for nothing else, I'm gonna kind of talk to myself and kind of express some of the things. For those of you who are tuning in at a later time, part of this is just to kind of give some tips and tricks of what I learned as far as the Down and Dirty Weathering Contest, and the key thing is, by all means, enter. This does require not only putting together having some skill in terms of putting together weathering, but truthfully, there were people who entered the last contest that had no experience weathering at all, and they entered it just for the learning experience. And I think that's great, and really that's what I'm hoping here. And if I can offer any sort of experiences, any sort of reflections on how to go about that. There's of course my weathering basics video. If you're just kind of wondering where to start. Also along the way, I am going to be offering some videos, just not so much videos, but tips on how to do videos, things that I kind of learned, because there's a time restriction this time around, that when it comes to doing these weathering videos for the Down and Dirty Weathering Contest, the limit is 10 minutes. Like range is 10 minutes to 20 minutes long. If you're under 10 minutes, you get penalized, and if you're over 21 minutes, you actually will be disqualified. And so the real challenge here is, when you're doing this kind of thing, is to how to get what is presumably several hours work all compacted into a single 10 to 20 minute video. In that, we can offer some tips. I can offer some tips on. You may have noticed in the videos that I've done, including the ones that I did for the Down and Dirty Weathering Contest, is that you can compress the speed to make it look like you go through it quite quickly. Some of these speeds I'm running at 10 to 12 times the normal speed, so it looks like I'm and that's fairly easily done with most video editing software, whether commercial or freeware, and that can be something that you can look at, and you can get a chance to do this. When it comes to actually doing some of the weathering that were the actual weathering techniques, one of the things that there's all kinds of techniques out there. I mean, you don't have to go by my method. You can go by other methods. One of the things that I'm going to give a little bit of a preview here. Let me just kind of bring this up. I found this in a copy of Damage, and this is actually from Fine Scale Modeler. It's from Kalmbach Books, who of course they put out Model Railroader, but this one, curiously enough, is a mix. It's weathering techniques on a whole bunch of things, and there is one train in here, but it's a non-functional train. It's a steampunk train, but showing just different weathering techniques and styles in a fairly short format. I'm going to try and include that in a link down below. I didn't get a chance to do that because I was putting my son to bed, so I did not have the chance to do that. So anyway, I suggest you check it out. And this almost, if you happen to get it, it has a bit of a precursor of what I was kind of planning to do anyway with some of my upcoming videos. And so I'm adding that to that. And also another one that I want to add is AK Interactive just announced, oh, I didn't set that properly, but just announced FAC 3. This is a part of their FAQ series, or FAQ FAQ, that has to do with what you're putting, different ways of doing armor modeling, and these techniques. Every weathering technique that you can come across, they're all transferable. You can learn all kinds of things from different directions and different places that you can do. I am hoping the audio is working on this. Unfortunately, I don't see anybody in chat that can actually necessarily verify that I'm that can actually verify whether or not I know that I've got a few people watching at the moment, but nobody's on chat yet. So we're just kind of gonna see what we can come up with. The other thing, so. As far as the techniques for the Down and Dirty Weathering Contest, I mean, certainly all kinds. And because this time around you're only doing one car, one video, you can probably get into a number of different things. Hi Rick, hi Robert. Oh, good. The audio is fine. So is it at the level it should be, more of a deeper voice rather than that kind of almost chipmunky video compared to the last audio streams that I've had? I'll just wait. I'll just wait for that. As more people arrive, I'll bring some of the things that I've already put up and have it back. But now that I've got a few people in chat, Rick or Robert, do you have any questions in terms of the weathering contests? Okay, good. I adjusted both of the settings on the mic system and the other. I'll hear it in playback. So yay. Okay, good. That one's fixed. That was really frustrating. to listen to, at least from my perspective. I mean, I don't have an overly deep voice, but it's like, man, I sound like a teenager, and as you may have guessed, I'm not. So, oh, and Hurley the Boxer, welcome. I just got a notification of a new subscriber. So, again, for those of you just kind of tuning in, okay. Oh, all right. So I can actually give you at least a verbal summary of the rules, Rick, for as far as the contest is concerned. The Ron does outline it in his video, and I'm pretty sure I've got that link down there. I really hope that I do, Ron. If you're listening, I hope that I've got it. And even now, if I don't right now, I will by the time the live stream goes. By the time that I actually get the live stream recorded and making all those settings proper. So yeah, for those of you who are looking to get the rules, I mean, there's a rule sheet there. A couple things to remember. This time around, unlike last year, this time around you're only weathering one car, and it doesn't matter the scale. You could do. You can do anything from, I mean, of course, the standards are N scale and HO scale. I'll put that in that order because I'm an N scaler, but I have done HO scale cars. But if you're doing a G scale car, great. If you're doing a Z scale, Canadian Z scale car, more power to you. I mean, trust me, I'd be really impressed if you can do some really fine weathering on a Z scale car. I think that would be really neat to see. But it matters not your scale. I mean, I think that's part of it. So you're doing one car, one video, and the video, unlike last time. The last time you had to do 4 videos: an introductory and a video for two cars. Plus a conclusion video. In this case, you're just doing one video that wraps it all together. But we've also put some time restrictions, or Ron's put some time restrictions. I'm simply a judge. I had no input in terms of the rules on this. I think this is very much out of his experience, out of Eric's experience. I'm going to actually bring this back up so you can see. Also, just as a reminder that the grand prize in this is a $100 gift certificate from Midwest Model Railroad, and that's that blue little blue logo that's there. They're a great online shop. The experience that I had with them it worked very well. And in addition to that is that there's also a runner-up, or the second prize, and then there is a People's Choice. And so last year I was the grand prize winner. Mark Stewart from Stu Structures was the second place winner, and Andy Dorsch had the People's Choice Award. And I think it was a lot of fun. And Andy did little dances in his video, and that was a lot of fun to watch. So there were all kinds of things that I learned from everyone else. I mean, and I mean that's part of it. You learn stuff from what other people are doing, and so this is a real chance for people to kind of check everything out and learn from one another. But also, if you're entering the contest, you also are a judge. I happen to be a guest judge, but I am not having an entry. So I know there were a few people said, "Oh, if John Crowdis is going to be entering, and I'm not going to enter." But please do enter. I mean, enter the contest no matter what your level of experience is. All right, okay, Rick. Yes, the videos from the first contest are still available, and in fact, if you go onto Ron's Trains and Things, one of the playlists shows all of them, including mine. On my channel, you just see the 4 videos that I have. However, because I am a guest judge, I am now required as part of this to actually include a playlist that will include all of your videos on my channel as well. So if you come and you want to see them, but if you want to see last year's videos, yeah, you can check them out on IMRR. Pardon me, Eric. IMRRO.com. Eric Hall's channel, and Ron's Trains and Things, there are playlists for the Down and Dirty Weathering contest from last year. Now, last year, there's a lot of videos there because each contestant had to put in 4 videos, and we had 10 entrants, I think. So, welcome, Scott. Part of it is just a slow trickle. 8:30 is kind of an odd start time, but I didn't have too much. Sorry, 8:30 Mountain is a bit of a challenge. My son is. I had to put my son to sleep, and I was just worried that I'm going to hear him yelling from upstairs before coming down. But again, welcome. So let's see. So yes, to answer your question, Greg, yes, the videos are still there, and you can kind of get a sense there. You can check my channel out for mine, but you can see all of the other ones and the different styles that were there. So you can also kind of compare to see sort of what works and the like. I suppose if I'm giving a couple of tips for doing videos, one thing is I think I came up with a bit of advice: film everything, cut most of it out, because you don't need to show absolutely every paint stroke, but you do need to demonstrate the technique. And in my case, I did actually cut a lot of it out because there was a lot of things that you just didn't necessarily need to see, or the other thing that you can do is also accelerate the video. Like once you get it in, you can take a certain clip and actually speed it up, and that can be a good way of showing the technique. Although a few people have requested me, because I do that a lot in my own videos, Oh, okay. So you've got the grandkids on sleepover. Yeah, I understand. For myself, because I'm running this on live video, I'm just a little worried that if you see a 4-year-old coming down the stairs behind me, or worse yet, a great big loud yell, which he often does, I may have to go tend to that, because my daughter, who's 13, yeah, she just turned 13. I have a teenager in the house. She's in her room, and she is just on she just finished her last day of school before Christmas, and so we're very much into that slide, and yeah, so everything's kind of on the go there. So I guess are there any other questions? Like this is intended both as a general Q&A. It's also just in terms of some of the resources that you can look at. One of the things that I'm fairly big on, and I think that there's no thinking about this. It's because while I was did model railroading as a kid, I've taken a fairly roundabout route to come back to model railroading, and on the way, I learned a lot about modeling and painting, for things like war games. I do science fiction miniatures and the like, and that's where I picked up a lot of the weathering techniques that I use. And one of the things that I found is that, and this is true of all modelers, is that we tend to stick in our own silos, and I'm not sure if it was just a case of how things worked. Is that particularly when I was exposed, and as I mentioned last week, when I was exposed to this book, Imperial Armor Model Masterclass from Forge World, which is actually a resin model making company that's an offshoot of Games Workshop. That was largely their war games that I had largely done. This changed the way that I paint, and it also taught me to look outside my own silo, because largely the models that I had done up to this point were fairly cartoony instead of that kind of really realistic look, and that's what I was looking for. But it also encouraged me not just to do what this book said, but also to look beyond the techniques and to kind of improvise and see where we can what we can do, and so that was really a neat opportunity to learn from that. And certainly within the field of model railroading, there's a lot of innovation going on, but particularly amongst military modelers. And as I mentioned, for those of you who didn't tune in right away, I came across this earlier, this new resource earlier in the week called Damaged. It's from Fine Scale Modeler, so it's actually published by Model Railroader, but the techniques in here are primarily, well, I mean, here, let's just up close. You can see that there's a Rebel snow speeder. This car is Mad Max's car from the Road Warrior, and then just a forklift. That forklift, some of the techniques on it are amazing. And in fact, the guy who actually painted that forklift is the same guy who, and this is going to be a little off. Actually, let's see if I can fix it before I bring it up to frame. That the same guy who painted that forklift is the same guy who wrote the new the new never get this right, the new fact book from or FAQ from AK Interactive, Ruben Gonzalez. And so I mean, quality model is great, and this new book is it's brand new. It's on pre-order. I mean, I don't even have a link to it down below, and so it's on the AK Interactive site. I'm sure it's going to be on Amazon at some point soon, but we'll see. This one is definitely on my wish list, and so I have every intention on planning on getting my hands on this book, just because there's all kinds of new techniques. Oh yes, and I forgot, I can do a live chat window, so everybody can see what we're doing. So now at this point, do you have any questions in terms of either on weathering techniques, on my experience in terms of doing some of the videos that we had? What are some of the things that you're interested in covering? Actually, here, let's kind of get the conversation going. What scale do you prefer to work with? What is the scale that you like to model with? I'm gonna toss that out there for those of you who are here, and I'm just gonna let that go let that go out there. So as I'm kind of waiting on that, are there because okay, so Scott, you're working with HO scale. I mean, I'm N scale as well. But if you noticed, a lot of the video that I shot for or the footage that I used in my Weathering Basics series, those were HO scale cars, most of them. You saw some N scale in there. The N scale stuff was mine. The HO scale was I do sometimes take I do take commissions. I'm sort of trying to ramp up to be able to take some more. And the advantage is, if I can do commissions, I'll be using them as part of the as showing what I do in techniques in the video. So I'm not just doing the painting for somebody else, but I'm also showing you how I did it. So that's part of it. So I've had a chance to work with both. In fact, somewhere along the way, I actually may have a G scale weathering project coming up, because there's a guy in my club who also does G scale, and so that's going to be quite interesting, because that's a much more robust. That's quite large. And now I think it's probably some building weathering, so you can get into some really fine detail. But I think last year we had, of course, not surprisingly, most of the entries into the Down and Dirty Weathering contest were HO scale. And the nice thing is with HO scale, that's a good mid range and like a nice canvas to work on. If you can call rail cars that, but the other thing is that I guess you don't have to necessarily reveal what you're doing, but each type of rail car, of course, has its own different patterns and the like. So what we can, what I'm, I guess, what I'm suggesting here is, as far as when you start getting into the work of the contest, film it all. And a couple of tips to remember: make sure this is something that I've kind of picked up in doing the videos myself. Here are some, if I'm to give you 3 important tips: audio, video, like AVL, the audio. Make sure that your audio is good. The one thing that when I film my stuff, you might notice that I don't actually I tend to actually do a voice overlay of the videos that I've done, partly because when you're working on something, you're going to be jumping and cutting between takes rather than completely explaining what you're doing, and so so with that, one of the things to consider is that you can download a freeware program like Audacity that you can actually just simply record your video on, and you can do that at your computer, and it can be pretty high quality. In my case, I happened to at one point, using the audio in my camera, I had to do some upgrading, and then at one point I was using my iPhone to record audio and then sync it later on, and then most recently I've just added this was gifted to me as an external recording unit. You don't have to get that fancy, really. If you're just going to do audio overlay, you just record it on your computer. Sometimes it's good to get I've got a set of headphones and there's a mic that attaches to it. That's all I did for the voice overlay when I did the Down and Nerdy weathering contest. It was pretty straightforward. The other thing to make sure the video is well lit. That's really important, because you need people to see what you're working on. So really, audio and lighting are probably primary. In terms of video, honestly, you can film it with anything, and I mean anything that includes, if you have a smartphone, there's your camera. That's all you need. And so sometimes what you can do is you can actually get something that would secure an iPhone to a small tripod, and then you can just simply aim it at your workspace and go to town and record it. Now, sometimes depending on if you're using, say, something like Apple Movie Maker or something like that, then you shouldn't have too much issues. But there's sometimes some of the iPhone stuff, you've got to run it through a special process before you put it into, for example, Adobe Premiere, which I use. If you bring it in, the audio begins to get off if you're wanting to do that. But if you're doing voiceovers, then you don't have to worry about that at all. So that's it. So Scott, you were saying that now, have you moved to N-Scale yet, or are you still in the HO? Because my first train set, like way back, and we're talking 40 years now, was the old Tyco HO set, and it was a CNF unit with the stripes, and ever since then, I've been a fan of Canadian National in terms of their paint scheme, and that's my railroad, I guess. And it's funny because living in Calgary, Calgary is the headquarters of the Canadian Pacific Railway. So, of course, the red locomotives. And most of the people in my club are CP people, and I know a number of people who have worked with Canadian Pacific who are disparage me for being a fan of Canadian National. But there you go. Hey, Ron, welcome. Thanks for dropping in. I was just kind of going over some of my experience, and of course, here's the man who's running the contest. I mean, really, if you want to have any questions answered, it's ask Ron. Great to have you on board, Ron. Okay. Yes, Scott, I understand in terms of you're sticking with HO because of glasses HO. Now, here's a confession. These are progressive lenses. In order to work on N scale now, and unfortunately, usually what I do, I just simply take off my glasses and work on it that way. But unfortunately, my eyes have now progressed. Now that I'll be 50 next year, and my eyes have progressed in such a way that I now need to actually use those head magnifiers just to kind of sharpen up the focus when I'm working on something, especially with N scale, and that's kind of going to be my lot in life. And for someone like me who really likes to get into the detail, a lot of people, particularly with N scale, is it's called the 3-foot rule. Is if it looks good 3 feet away, then it's good enough. The trouble is, my standard's a 6-inch scale. I like to look at something like that close, and I can't focus that close anymore. So I've got to get my magnifiers. So, anyway, since Ron is actually here, I'm going to review the rules again. Here, let me just bring the splash page back up. Ron, I've got your graphic there, and of course it's sponsored by Midwest Model Railroad, and the rules this time around is one car, one video. And the video is going to be it needs to be between 10 and 20 minutes long. If it's less than 9 minutes, then there'll be a penalty. And if it's over 21, you're actually disqualified, because keep in mind that everybody who's entering is also going to be judging everybody else's video. So there's a time factor to be working with. So, yes, Scott. If there was an essential tool for model railroading, my essential tools video a couple of weeks back, I did not include a magnifier, and I really should have. That's the one thing, is one of those on your head. And actually, if you look at the video, particularly of the one that I'm working on, the decals for the GP15 locomotive that I turned into a lease unit, you can actually see me wearing these things, and I mean I'm like that close to the decals with these magnifiers going on, and I needed them. I absolutely needed them. So yes, I remember that hour-long video, Ron. And truth be told, is I kind of jumped forward as I was going through. But one of the tips of advice that I've said so far is film everything, but cut most of it out, or compress it. And really do both, cut and compress, because if it takes you 3 hours to weather a car, we don't need to see every paint stroke over those three hours. You want to really just show the highlights of it, parts of it that really demonstrate well. Also, in setting up the cameras, the other thing is that how you set it up for entering the contest, it's a good idea to pay attention to where the camera is. Focus it on your desktop. Something that I found helpful when I was doing mine is I would actually put pieces of tape on my work area, and made sure that the camera was focused inside there. So you never actually saw the tape on the video, but it allowed that I knew that if anything was here, then it would be present on the video itself. So. Love that quote, Ron. Great video is born in the edit. Yes, absolutely. I mean, you can have all kinds of footage, but it's really the editing that does make it work. And for someone like me, even though I am a public speaker, I tend to stammer and a lot. You've noticed this in the live chats. And that's why my videos, there are certain jump cuts, and I really wish I had a teleprompter, to be honest, because it just I tend to work better from a script, but you don't need to see me reading that. Now, that having been said, when I do my voiceover, all I'm doing is I film it all at once, but I'm actually looking down at my script at the point at which you're seeing other pictures or videos moving across the screen. So yes, the part of it, like, this is showing your skill and what you're learning in terms of weathering, but it's also showing what you're learning in terms of video presentation. Now, granted, your marks on the video are I think, Ron, remind me again what the points breakdown is, but the majority of the points are assigned with regard to the quality of the weathering job. But there's also how well you demonstrated the technique is part of that, and how and the video itself, and so there is that. So majority is the weathering, but it's also the video and the video processing. So the rules actually give the actual what the percentage breakdown of what that's going to look like. So pay attention to the rules, and pay attention to what's being asked for. Oh yes, Ron. Actually, I'm going to move this to a frame that you can actually. You can see this because here we go. We can see this. So I am modeling my my shirt, and there we go. So finished production is 60%, demonstration 30%, video quality 10%. So that kind of gives you the idea, because we don't necessarily, I don't think Ron wants to necessarily penalize people if you're just getting started in video editing, but we can certainly give you some tips. Yeah, I need to start collecting right now, Ron. You're the only bit of swag that I have from any of the channels. I probably should get one from Steve Brown and others, but for right now, I'm proud to show it off, and of course the mug that goes with it, and great that you're now having that on Teespring as well. If you go to Ron's channel, there's a little bar underneath where the videos show, and you can even get sweatshirts and iPhone cases that says RT&T on it, and which is great to see. And so in addition to the gift certificates from Midwest Model Railroad, you will also get something from the Teespring store, and it's actually your choice this time around. So it is because Ron, you had these shirts locally made, if I recall correctly, and it's great. So yeah, I'm any time that I'm going to be doing a video in relation to the Down and Dirty Weathering Contest, you're going to see this this shirt on, regardless of whether it's a live stream or a video about that. So. Yeah. Okay. So and they're great quality shirts. The now I suppose for my climate up here, that it being, now we haven't had it as cold as it can get here, but for those of you who don't know, I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and winter is a thing here, and in fact so much so that I was actually tempted to go to the local Home Depot and actually show you the entire aisle of pink foam that I have access to here, and sitting in the garage I have these 2 foot by 8 foot by 4 inch thick pink foam, it was surplus from a retirement residence that's built across the street from me, that was fairly new, and they had to strip it out and put new ones in, and so they when I asked the builders about that, they just gave it a supply. I haven't had a chance to use it, and that was last year. But I have these enormous pink foam in my garage. So yeah, there's my little I should put a sidetrack sign on here with apologies to Steve Brown, that I get in there. So I guess some of the questions, since Ron is here, is if you have any other questions specific to the contest, I mean, by all means, please check out Ron's channel. Please get a chance to, if you're even just slightly considering entering the contest, please do, because it's a great learning experience. There's a lot of things to be learned with it, and certainly I learned probably more from it than people may have learned from me. That's just my sense. There were some great entries, some really creative entries, including one person who did a crane and tender. That I was looking at that going, I really wish I thought to do it, because I did gondolas. and they were gondolas that I had picked out of a bargain bin at my local hobby shop, and there's all kinds of things that you can choose with that, and all different kinds of ways that you can go. Now, one thing that Ron does make clear in the rules is that like the car, the piece of rolling stock has to be basically unmodified, so no super detailing on it. But you can replace the trucks and couplers, and upgrade the wheel sets. That's sort of the limit with it. But it's the stock grab irons and that kind of thing that still have to remain as part of it. So you can you only get 2-inch in Florida. Let's see. 48 degrees on the deck. Well, it's trouble is I always think in metric. So right now it's about 28 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and getting colder. But that, relatively speaking, actually that's not too bad. We've actually had it quite warm here. It's been about probably up to 48 degrees up here, but then again, the sun also sets at 4:30 right now, so we're in darkness when we get up, and we're in darkness when we before supper time. So yeah, we were up to about 8 degrees Celsius this past week. Living where I do, there's a fairly unique wind pattern called locally, officially it's called a fawn wind, but here we call them Chinooks. And it's just a wind that comes across the mountain and warms things up. I've seen it go from without exaggeration, minus 30 Celsius to plus 20 in one day. Car windshields have cracked with that kind of extreme, but it does happen. So yes, yeah. Today is the shortest day of the year, certainly in the northern hemisphere, anyway. And for us being somewhere north of the north of roughly 49 to 50 degrees up, actually I think we're about 51 degrees north of the equator here, so I'm actually closer to the North Pole than I am to the equator, but the Great White North. Anyway, at some point I'm going to take a picture of the Home Depot aisle that just shows all the pink foam. We have Lowe's as well, and they usually are blue foam, but I mean it's the same R rating. It's about R20 or so. So we have to get that, and they even put out little 1-inch thick by 2 foot by 2 foot pink foam project boards that you can pick out and pull out, and that's much easier to transport than my small car, because if I'm bringing anything for my layout, I have to borrow my dad's van and pick it up, bring it back, and return the van. So I don't get a chance to do. I can't just run to the store and pick up lumber, because I've got this little Hyundai Elantra that I drive. So anyway, so do we have any other questions? I don't want to necessarily keep this on for too long. I mean, we've been on for about 40 odd minutes, and just wanting to make sure that if the message is out there, please consider entering the Down and Dirty Weathering Contest. In terms of resources, just as a reminder, that the fine scale modeler damage. This one you can actually find it probably in a Barnes and Noble. If you're in Canada, it's an Indigo or a Chapters. What I really like about this one is that, Ron, you'll like this as well. It's got a great article on painting a Bandai 1/48 scale snowspeeder. All of those techniques, whether it's the Mad Max car, whether it's that forklift, whether it's the snowspeeder, all of those techniques are transferable to model trains. So please check it out. And the nice thing about this is that, unlike the other books that I've been recommending, which are $70 to $120 depending on your currency, this one is quite thin, and it is it's about $10, at least $10 Canadian. So $8, $7, $8 US. But now, Just one disclaimer, though, is that this book, Fine Scale Modeler, did this in conjunction with AK Interactive. So most of the products they're using are the AK Interactive products that you've seen both Ron and I use. So do check it out, though. It's got some really neat tips on it that are transferable to model railroading. So there's that that little advertisement, and another one. And I don't have an Amazon link to this yet. I wish I could, because I might be able to make a commission off of that. But anyway, Ruben Gonzalez, who actually did the forklift in the Fine Scale Modeler, is the author of this version of the book. And so again, it always, the techniques are updating, and certainly you can get a chance to check out a few things. So yes. And do check out those, draw on different resources. You can of course check out my channel, but there are a lot of great resources out there. Another one that I want to give an endorsement to is a place called the Rust Bucket Weathering Forums, that are model railroaders who that's their passion. And I think I've said this on a previous video that there's a lot of people out there who are a lot better than I am, and if you want to see who some of them are, check out some of these different places. There's even a guy up the road here in Edmonton. His name's Rob Arsenault. Has a website called Weather My Trains, and he takes commissions. That's his job. That's what he does, and he's very good at it. And I'm actually kind of hoping that at Calgary has a train gathering in April of this year. It's the same weekend as Palm Sunday, and that weekend we have Super Train, which is Canada's largest train show, and Rob's going to be there, and I'm actually kind of hoping to interview him here on JC's Riptrack, and just in terms of some of the modelers that are out there. Of course, this will be well after the contest is over, and so a lot of those materials in terms of those different techniques, and there's new stuff coming out all the time. I mean, AK Interactive has just started launching several new products, including their real color line. That they also have the real colors of World War II, and just recently launched a real air colors. And of course, as model railroaders, we can use any one of those. The other thing is one of their competitors, Ammo by MiG, has a series of what are called oil brushers. They're basically pre-mixed oils to the right consistency for working on models, and they put them out either as individuals or individual kits. Those are, I haven't tried those. And I really want to get a chance to do this. So while all of you are going to be entering the contest, and please do enter the contest. I'm going to be doing some of my own stuff and experimenting as well. But remember, I'm a judge this year. I'm not entering. And and again, Ron, thank you very much for the opportunity to judge. Because truthfully, even if I was able to enter this year, I wouldn't feel right about it for because these contests are to help people learn, not just simply to grab to come in and swoop in and grab the prize. That's not what I see this is about. This is about collectively improving our craft together. And so please enter. I'm going to be doing stuff that I'm going to be learning about, and I can give tips and advice on some of the things that worked for me in terms of putting together videos. And just advice on some video software and the like, and so we can make this really have a chance to make this work and have a lot of fun doing it. So just kind of looking at this, we're at about 20 after 9. I think I am gonna wind it up there. But did we have any other questions? And Ron, again, thank you for the privilege of being a guest judge this year. I really am looking forward to that, and hopefully for people who are following this on the replay, that my meandering thoughts around around this. But the reality is, I do have a couple of videos that are coming up. But as you probably already know, Ron is a pastor with a church where he lives. I am also a pastor as well, and we're actually kind of occupied. Quite busy in terms of services, both on Sunday. I've got 2 services on Sunday, and I've got the church that I work at has 2 services on Monday night. My retired colleague is actually taking the late service, so I can actually do the Christmas Eve routine with my 4-year-old son for the first time, because this year he really gets it. So very, very much looking forward to that. But still, it has been kind of busy. So I haven't been able to I've been doing footage, but I haven't actually been able to actually pull the video together. But what's up next for me is some painting videos. Just in terms of painting basics of how to get the model up to a certain point before you actually start weathering it. And shortly on the heels of that, I've got a model lined up for doing the salt weathering, or not so much salt weathering, but salt chipping. Salt weathering is an aircraft modeler's technique that is also quite neat and works quite well. But I'm not doing that. There's all kinds of different things that we can get into. Anyway, with that, thank you again very much for joining tonight, and we look forward to all of your entries. And again, if you have any questions, please don't forget, just put them in the comment section down below. Join the Facebook group, the Down and Dirty Weathering Contest on Facebook, because now it is a closed group, so you have to request to join. But make sure that you get a chance to join that, and again, just have fun. This is that's what this is about. Is to really enjoy the process of what we can learn, and that's really the big thing that we can be doing it. Okay, so Scott, you've got a request there, a video on mixing paint for airbrushes. Okay, excellent question. So anyway, and it sounds like my wife is just getting home. She's been out all evening. So with that, I'm going to sign off. So good luck, and may you keep on track.